Can you feel the change in the air? First service, it was particularly true because it was very crisp as people were coming in. It's like, there's going to be a 40-degree temperature swing today. The air literally feels different. It's like freezing cold outside. But you just feel it. This time of year, there's this move where we move from our summer rhythms to the fall rhythms, and they're different. Right? For those of us who are dialed in on this because we have kids around or we just are used to having kids at school-age kids, we notice it's starting to come when the school supplies start to show up at Walmart. Right? It's like, oh boy, summer is coming to a close. We are coming to a landing of summer. We're moving into the fall. Right now, by the way, because Walmart marches on, you can go to Walmart and get your Halloween decorations and your Halloween candy. So it would be a couple months early and ready to go for whatever you've got planned with that. Next week, we'll be buying candy canes and we'll be ready to roll for like the Christmas season. Somebody told me this morning we're 15 weekends away from Christmas, by the way, for those of you who needed a little shot of adrenaline and whatever. But here we go. The change is in the air. It's that we're in the summer's over, get back to work time of year. Ready or not, change is coming. And so as we move and we start this school year, it feels like everything is ramping up, doesn't it? It feels like all of a sudden rhythms, like our kids' schedules get more hectic. And even if we don't have kids who are in school at this point, it's like life just seems to now move into a different rhythm as we move toward the fall. And so as we move into this new season that brings new rhythms to our days, I'm coming before you with an impassioned plea. Embrace the easy life. Embrace the easy life. When I started writing this series a few months ago, I was picturing this moment where it's like, we get used to this where there's like this bait and switch kind of moment where it's like, okay, sure, Pastor Nate's going to put up a graphic that's like really relaxing and it's like, here we go. But then he's going to get up and say, just kidding, there's no such thing as the easy life. Get to work. Here's all the things you've got to be doing. Like that's just the setup and now we're like doing something different. Embrace the easy life. And I mean it. And we're going to talk about over the next month or so what it looks like for us to live this life. It's centered on and built on a set of conversations that Jesus had with his followers as they were beginning to ramp up their ministry. As Jesus has poured into them and invested in them, then he's sending them out on mission. And then they're coming back and they're having conversation with Jesus about how it went and what they're learning. And Jesus is saying, so here's what to expect as you go. And he's explaining to them how it's going to be difficult and there's going to be hardship. And he's not even quite yet telling the whole story. There's like all sorts of persecution they're going to endure. And he's preparing them for it. But all along the way, the conversation is leading us towards something different. We're used to, and part of why we expect that this is going to be a bait and switch is we're used to hearing things and we're used to saying things like anything worth doing is going to be hard work. Right? Anything worth doing is going to be hard. It's going to be hard work. You got to work hard to do things that are worth doing. That rest, like if there is such thing as rest, it's the reward for working hard. We work so we can earn rest. The goal of life is to be comfortable. We might have all sorts of different ways that we explain that, or we would describe that for what comfort means for us, but we say like our goal, the reason we work so hard is we want to earn rest. Rest is comfortable, therefore the purpose of life, the purpose of work, the purpose of what we do is so that we're comfortable. And we start to build a life around that approach. The problem is we don't just build a life around that approach, we are so consistent that we build our lives in a certain way. Then we approach God with that same framework. So then we start to think like anything in our relationship with God is going to be hard work. To rest, I have to work to earn rest. The goal is to be comfortable. And we start to put all the pieces together because we swim in cultural waters that constantly tell us these things and we participate by repeating them and saying them in the same way. And then we come to God and we come to our relationship with God and we approach it with the exact same framework. As I've worked through this larger conversation that Jesus is having with his followers, there's a big what if that's become a theme of understanding what Jesus is calling us to. And the way this works, we've got these statements that we say culturally, these statements that we say in conversation with other people. But what if we've been getting it wrong all along? Like, what if we have allowed the way we operate culturally and the way we operate in connection with other people to actually drive the way we relate to God and the way that we approach God and the way that we approach soul kinds of things? What if we're not getting it right? What if we've been getting it wrong all along? So that leads to some other what if questions. Like what if the most important thing was actually the easy thing? Can you imagine? What if the most important thing was actually the easy thing? Follow up. What if we could be at ease in our relationship with God? Man, I sit across the table from people. I have conversations with people, and it's like, I just would love for you to understand, not that we don't have to work and that God doesn't ask us to step up and do hard things, but you can be at ease in your relationship with God. What if the most important thing was the most natural thing, that we could actually be at ease in our relationship with God? What if everything that tells us that that's not true isn't right? What about this one? What if life on mission wasn't a struggle of our plans versus God's will? What if? What if we weren't constantly wrestling with God about our will and his plan for our lives, and we're getting it wrong in so many different kinds of ways, and it's like, just have to square off with God about this? And then a question that has personally been something that I have wrestled with. I would invite you, actually I'd ask that you wrestle with this personally as well. What if our approach to life, and I mean life, like life, the whole of life, that is like God at work in our lives, our relationship with God, not just the things we do is like we go about life, but what if our approach to life flowed out of passion instead of discipline? What if our approach to life flowed out of passion instead of discipline? Like, discipline is us making ourselves do things we don't want to do. Right? So we talk about, I've got to be disciplined in how I approach these things. I have to discipline myself to open scripture and listen to what God has to say. To discipline myself to pray and to live life in conversation with God. It's like I've got to make myself do a thing that I don't naturally want to do. What if we loved God so much that we wanted to hear from him? That it wasn't a have to, it's a get to. What if the way we approached life, the way we approached our relationship with God was an outpouring of affection for him? It's like, I love God. I want to hear what he has to say to me about the way I'm living my life. I actually want to live in conversation with him, not in stiff, formal kinds of prayers, but things along the way, like a prayer that I've been learning lately of God, I trust you with this. Complete prayer. God, I trust you. I trust you with this situation. I trust you with this conversation. I trust you with the things that I can't figure out how to untangle. I trust you. What if we approached our lives as an outpouring of passion and not just discipline, us making ourselves do things we don't want to do? Living our lives at ease in our relationship with God. Living in step with him as the most natural thing in our lives. Not doing things that are in connection with God because we have to, or that we want something from him, or it's a negotiation, or it's a transaction, but because we love him and we want to be near him. I'm going to hear some really good news. It's what God wants too. Tucked in that conversation that Jesus is having with his disciples in the middle of a larger arc of scripture, there's a moment where Jesus describes the kind of life that God longs for us to have in relationship with him. where we say what it would look like if we approached God because we love him and we want to be near him. It's what God wants too. Listen to what Jesus says in Matthew 11, verse 28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. What does God want? What kind of relationship does God want to have with us? Is it ceaseless work and discipline and forcing ourselves to do things we don't want to do and making every piece of our relationship with God something that's like it's a have to? Come to me, you weary, burdened souls. I will give you rest, deep rest, not just rest your body, but rest for your souls. Jesus says, come to me, which is a reminder to his disciples. He's having a conversation. There's two audiences at play. If we can picture this moment, Jesus is coaching his disciples, these who are like closest to him, who he's getting ready to, he's been in process of sending out on mission. There's these whole like back and forth moments that are happening along the way. And so Jesus has his disciples sort of huddled up around him and he's having this conversation. But then there's these like not yet disciples, but super interested in what Jesus has to say, people who are gathered around as well. They're also listening to Jesus as he's teaching his disciples. So Jesus says to his disciples, come to me. One of the very first things that Jesus spoke to his disciples, as Matthew records the story of Jesus' earthly ministry, early in the book of Matthew, Jesus invites them, he says, come. Follow me. I will make you fishers of men, right? It's a metaphor that he's using, a picture that he's painting of them laying down their nets and they've been fishing to say, I'm going to help you live life on mission in a different kind of way. I will teach you. You don't have to have it all figured out. I'll teach you along the way. But come to me. So now as he's describing life lived in relationship with him and on mission with him, he's speaking to his disciples words they would remember. We remember those first words spoken to us. He says, come to me. Come to me. He's also reminding them of the very first move of discipleship is responding to Jesus' invitation to come near. Right? We think it was like, well, we think of discipleship, and we might be tempted to think discipleship is only hear what God has to say and do it. That is like, Jesus describes that often as like, that's how you know you're a disciple. It's the mark of discipleship. But the first move of discipleship is the invitation and the response. Jesus says, come to me. And we're going to talk about what that might look like and the things that might be asked of you along the way and the sending that might happen. But first, come near. So the disciples are being reminded of their first and most important calling, to come close. And then Jesus, he's having this conversation, also letting the crowd around them hear what they're being invited into. So I'm inviting you into presence. I'm inviting you into closeness with me, relationship with me. And so he's teaching the disciples, and then he's also inviting the crowd in. And at the same time, he's teaching the disciples and reminding the disciples, and he's showing them what mission looks like. He says, so when you go, say this, come to Jesus. It's like, what a sweet, sweet deal. He's reminding them, he's inviting them, and he's coaching them with this really simple statement, come to me. It's like if we could spend the rest of our lives getting close to Jesus and then repeating those words into a world that desperately needs to hear them, I think we've spent our lives well. And then Jesus turns. He doesn't stop just with that one statement. He actually then brings all of the audiences, including this audience 2,000 years later, right into the conversation. Because we have this way of approaching things that God says or that Jesus says, and we think, well, let me talk about why I'm like not qualified to participate in that, why I'm somehow exempted or unable to participate in that. We draw lines that God is not drawing, and we say, here's why this doesn't apply to me, or why God would not be speaking to me like this. And so Jesus says, come to me. And if we think, boy, I better make myself worthy, I better make sure I've cleaned myself up and get myself as ready for this as possible so that those words might actually apply to me, Jesus then casts the net as wide as we could possibly imagine. He says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden. Anybody tired? Anybody feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders? Anybody feel burdened in life? Anybody's soul restless? Anybody feel like there's like stuff that's been placed in your life that you don't know how to deal with? Does any of us feel like we just can't figure it out for ourselves, and we've like made such a mess of our lives, and we're tied up and bound up and burdened in all kinds of ways? Jesus is saying, so if that's you, he doesn't say, like, if that's you and your life's a mess and it's all your fault because of the choices you've made, clean yourself up so you can be. If you are weary and heavy laden, you are perfectly positioned for this invitation. Come to me. Jesus has compassion for the weary and the burdened. Jesus loves the weary and the burdened. Throughout his earthly ministry, he saw people who were burdened. He saw people who were weary, and he fought for them. He met them in the midst of their weariness and in their burdens. He loved them. In Matthew 23, there's a moment where Jesus is instructing his followers, and he's saying, look, there are people who, like these religious leaders, who put burdens on people who aren't willing to carry those burdens themselves. So he says, so like they are like people who are positioned by God to lead God's people in relationship with God. However, don't do what they do because they put burdens on people that they themselves aren't willing to carry. Don't do that. Like reject those kinds of burdens. And so Jesus sees people trying to do things and like trying to lead people toward God, but placing burden upon burden upon burden. And Jesus says, don't do that. He's fighting for the weary and the burdened. And so it's an invitation for all of us who are weary and burdened. There's like such good news in that. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to be like, I feel light. God, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm not worried about anything. God, I'm tired. I'm weary. I'm carrying stuff that like I picked up myself or other people handed to me, and it's like I'm weary and I'm burdened. God says, perfect. Come to me. Come to me. We don't have to fake it or figure it out before we come to Jesus. He's calling us to himself just as we are, and he's offering to help. He says, I will give you rest. Jesus is likely reminding this audience, his disciples, and then those who were kind of like in the orbit of this discipleship conversation. These are people who would have been very familiar with the story of God and how God has been in conversation with his people across centuries. And so Jesus, as he speaks, I will give you rest, is likely pointing to a very, very critical moment in the life of the people of God. It's a moment where God has raised up Moses to lead his people. And God's like making promises and placing in front of Moses this call to lead the people of God. And then Moses, like leadership, by the way, is not always easy. There's times when it's frustrating. There's times when people don't just follow your leadership. There's times when like things get messy and you're like, what? Just like, what is going on? Like, why will you not follow? And Moses is having a moment like this. And it's a critical juncture for the people of God because their leader he's frustrated. So Moses says to God in Exodus 33, he says, you have been telling me. I love this honest leadership conversation between Moses and God. He says, you've been telling me, lead these people. It's like, kind of like there's a font that's like frustrated font from Moses. He's like, these people, you've been telling me, lead these people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. Let's just translate that for Moses. God, I'm by myself. and I don't have anybody who will help me. Right? These moments where we're like, there's nobody. It's just me and like a whole nation of people wandering in the wilderness. God, I can't do this. And you haven't even shown me who's going to help me. In other words, I have no one. I'm by myself. God, you told me. I have no one to help. He says, you've said, I know you by name. Moses repeating back to God, and you have found favor with me. Well, if you're pleased with me, then teach me your ways so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. And then remember, this nation is your people. Could Moses have distanced himself from the people he's leading anymore? He's like, these people, your people, are very frustrating, and I'm tired of leading them by myself. God, you got to step up here. And the Lord replied, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Now, Moses follows up with a really beautiful conversation of saying, well, if you'll be with me, like, stick with me. I don't care what else this all requires of me. If you're with me, we're fine. But if you're not with me, then everyone's going to know that we're like easily taken and all these, like, just be with me. If you go with me, then we'll continue to go. But God, stay close, stay close, stay close. Jesus, now centuries later, I'm with you. I'm fulfilling a promise. I will give you rest. A promise that God has been keeping for centuries up to that point, that God has continued to keep for centuries after Jesus spoke it, that we can live in that kind of promise and that kind of statement. There's two ways to find rest. There's the transactional way, I'm going to earn rest. I'm going to work hard so that I can earn rest. Which, by the way, eventually any version of try harder when it comes to Christianity will eventually be exposed as counterfeit. And this breaks down very quickly. We cannot work our way to rest in relationship with God. We cannot try harder our way to rest in Him. The way we get rest is we receive it from Jesus, who has promised He would give it. Jesus says, here's how. Right, this is how it plays out. So a theme that we're going to see as we move through this series, and I cannot wait to continue this conversation as we move through future weeks of this conversation, but a theme that we're going to see is like, it's not the easy way or the hard way. It's the easy way. Jesus says, I will give you rest. We say, I will try harder to earn rest. It's not the easy way or the hard way, like somehow if we could try hard enough that we could get it figured out. It's the easy way and the impossible way. We cannot try harder our way to earn something that Jesus said, I will give you for free. We can't work and earn something that Jesus says, I will give you freely. Jesus offers the easy way if we'll take Him up on it. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. What a beautiful promise. Our restless souls finding rest in Jesus. And the process is actually beautifully simple. Jesus says, come to me. It's a promise of presence. You can rest in that. He doesn't say, like, let's sort it out. Let's like work it out for yourself and then show up. He says, come to me. It says, take on the yoke of discipleship, which means, and we're going to talk about this as we go through this, like there are some other yokes that we might have on us that have been placed on us or we've chosen for ourselves that have got to go. Take the yoke of discipleship and learn from me, which means that Jesus doesn't expect us to have it all figured out, that there's a learning process, that is okay that we don't have it all sorted out, that Jesus says, look, here's the qualifications for coming to me. Be weary and burdened. Have a restless soul. Okay, now come close. Now let's sort it out. There's no conditions that He's placing on proximity to us, on presence with us, of us having figured it out. He says, we will figure it out. Close. I'm with you. For my yoke is easy My burden is light. There's an agricultural picture that Jesus is using here, where you picture two oxen that are like yoked. There's two positions. There's the easy position and the hard position. The hard position actually is doing the most of the work. The hard position is the one that's establishing direction, that's establishing pace. And then this easier position is along and is in step with the one that's in the harder position. So like the work isn't as difficult. It's in step with the one in the hard position. And Jesus is saying, I'm doing the work. Come with me. Right? This is a whole picture of life lived in relationship with God as we live on mission with him. That's beautiful when we think of it this way. The only thing that's surrendered when you're in the easy position, there's two things that you surrender. One is direction and pace. We don't get to choose where we go, and we don't get to choose how quick we get there. Right? It's like that's what we surrender in this process, but the yoke is easy. The burden is light. So how do we, if we have to clear off and take off some counterfeit yokes, some things that have been placed on us, how do we begin to identify those burdens in our lives, those yokes in our lives that are the counterfeits, that aren't the real thing? I can tease this out a little bit. Let's start by talking about false freedom. There are so many promises. So many of us have gotten wrapped up and trapped in a way of living that started out with someone saying, here's the thing, you are free to do whatever you want. Do what you feel like. Whatever it is that you feel like doing, just do that thing. You could, there's no one who can tell you what to do. There's no one who can tell you that there's boundaries in life at all. Just do whatever you feel like doing. Total freedom. Any of us who have walked step after step in total freedom know that it's a trap. With every step, the bindings get a little tighter. With every step, our options begin to get more and more limited. What started out as a promise of freedom leaves us burdened and bound up in all kinds of ways. So there's this false freedom that doesn't actually lead to freedom at all. It's a promise of freedom that binds you and weighs you down over time, and it's counterfeit. What about false burdens? Like what Jesus is talking about, people placing on you things that they don't have any right to place on you. Things that you've experienced, things that have been said to you, burdens that have been placed on you. People who place burdens on you but are unwilling to help you carry them. Jesus says, my burden is light. So how do we know if it's a counterfeit? Is it heavy? Are you carrying it by yourself? It's not the real thing. What about our own baggage? The stuff we are choosing to carry, the stuff that we have done, choices we've made, and then we come and we're like, Jesus, I hear you calling me to get close to you, and you say light burden, but I'm weary from carrying all of this weight. And it's like, well, why are you still carrying it? It's not yours to carry. Give it to the one who says his burden is light, or just drop it and move on. It's the burdens, it's the baggage that we carry for ourselves, the stuff we won't let go of that makes each step heavier and heavier. False freedom, false burdens, our own baggage, and then the truth. There is a yoke, and there is still a burden, but it's an easy yoke, and it's a burden that we don't carry. Jesus says, I will carry it for you. It's beautiful. When we talk about the easy life, that's what we're talking about, that we can be at ease in our relationship with God, that we can live our lives at ease with him, not just doing whatever we want, but unburdened. And in an easy, yoked situation, a relationship with Jesus. So in this conversation this morning, it becomes corrective for us. There's two questions that can help us get at maybe some of the issues that are present in our lives that are keeping us from fully stepping into the easy life that Jesus is offering, right? I'm not making this idea up of just embrace the easy life. That will sound good to people, and people want to hear that. Jesus says, embrace the easy life. So this conversation becomes corrective with two questions. When you look at your life, when you look at your relationship with God, is it easy? Is it easy? Or does it feel like work? Is it an outpouring of passion and affection? Or is it I have to do? Is it discipline? So I'm going to make myself do something I don't want to do, which does not feel easy at all. Is it easy? If not, what's making it difficult? Is there a who's making it difficult? Or is there's something that's making it difficult? Is it someone else who's making our relationship with God difficult? Or is it ourselves? Are we complicating it? Are we operating in ways that create offense between us and God so we aren't living at ease in our relationship with him? To take some time and to pay attention to this in our lives, like, is it easy? Is it light? Or does it feel like a burden? Are we living burdened, weary lives? Or is it light? Is it what Jesus said is actually supposed to be the case when we live our lives in relationship with him? Are we making it heavy because we're holding on to stuff that people have placed on us? Are we making it heavy because we're holding on to things that we have done or that we're carrying and we refuse to let go of them, or we can't imagine that we could let go of them? And instead of this light, easy life, we're burdened and we're weary and we're bound up. Is it easy? Is it light? There's two moves, two questions, two moves. Move one, trust Jesus. So much of this series and of the conversations that we're going to be having together as a church, so much of what Jesus just said to us through his word, like Jesus saying, come to me. I'll give you rest for your soul. You weary, burdened souls, I'll give you rest. He says, all of that starts with us trusting him and his words. So we say, like, I can trust what Jesus has to say to me about the life that he's made possible for me to live through his life, his death, and his resurrection. I can trust Jesus. I can trust the words that he's speaking. I can trust him as he leads me in my life. When he talks about counterfeit offers and the easy yoke, we can trust what he's saying about all of it. And we can surrender and step into the life that he's called us and inviting us to live into. Come to me. We can trust him. And we can trust the process. That we can look and we can say, if we trust Jesus, then we can trust what he says about, I will make you along the way. That we can trust the work that he's doing in us. Jesus himself trusts the process. That's why there's not any prerequisites to him saying, come to me. He doesn't say, like, once you have straightened yourself out, or once you've dealt with the stuff that I don't want to have to mess with, and the burdens that I don't want to have to deal with, once you've done all of that kind of like that kind of work, then come to me. Jesus does not set up any kind of prerequisite. He says, come to me, and I will. I will. And I will. Because Jesus trusts the process. He knows what he's trying to accomplish in you, and he knows that the process works. So for some of us, we have approached life in relationship with God in like little pieces and little half steps along the way. Maybe we say, like, I've tried that. Well, we might have attempted it, but have we seen it through all the way from like the call to the promise? To the point where Jesus says, I will give you rest. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. The process all the way through. Come to Jesus. Jesus says, I will unburden you and I will teach you. And you can live at ease. And we can be at ease with each other. Choose the easy life.